This morning I got up in the hotel and I tied my shoes. And as I tied my shoes, I was wondering if I could remember what the name of the room was that we were having breakfast in. I was wondering what my wife was doing, if she was up this morning, if the cat had thrown up on the floor again. I was thinking about a lot of things in language, but you know what I wasn't thinking of in any language whatsoever was my shoe. My shoe was tied in a total process that my brain has moved outside of language and put back into the process center. My lizard brain ties my shoes. Now, if you make me teach my 3-year-old toddler grandson how to tie his shoes, it's going to stress me out because my lizard brain is going to fight to keep that process embedded where it belongs. And taking the extra biological energy of moving that out of my process center and back into my language center is not fun, and it's going to stress me out, and I'm going to get a little nervous, and I'm going to think I'm doing it wrong, and I'm going to have a hard time, even though I've tied my shoes a million times. Let me make it a little more violent. Anybody taught a teenager how to drive? Think about this. I mean, really think about it. You don't think about driving. You think about where your cell phone is, you think about where your meeting is, you think about that idiot up there with the smoke blowing out of his car. You think about lots of things, but you are not in language thinking about driving. And now what are we going to do? We're going to take a teenager with no experience, we're going to put them in the car and let them roll down the road at real time, and we're going to try to bring out of our lizard brain all of the things that they need to know in language and get them all said before they run into something. Now add to that the person sitting next to you driving the car, you have absolutely zero filter with this person. All of your fears, all of your anxiety is about to come flying out of you, right? So we wonder when we send our clients home to figure out their budget or how much they spend on stuff and they come back rattled. It's because they have financial processes. They have financial processes that they learned in their nuclear family starting at 2 years old. They learned about money, and they learned about it outside of language because most of it was observed. And then you get into a marriage, and I know you guys probably never had any marital stress whatsoever over money. Or maybe found that talking about money is taboo in your marriage. It's because these things are so embedded in the way that we do them. So does it take some courage to engage relationally with our clients? It takes courage and it takes skill. Now I want to throw something out right now, because if you're smart, you're out there going, hey, real quick, I'm not a therapist, and I ain't going to act like one in front of my clients. I'm not signing up for that. Anybody in here give any kind of guidance whatsoever on taxation? Anybody? You a CPA? Anybody ever talk to somebody about estate planning or a will or beneficiary designations? Are you an attorney? Let me ask you a question. Who has a designation in here that's something like a CFP? You have cross-trained in lots of areas that are not primarily asset management or retirement planning. There are skills that those organizations have decided that you need to cultivate in order to be successful. CFP board has just added a new one. Anyone want to guess what it is? Psychology. So guess what? They're even starting to realize that success and failure in plans is really starting to get into this idea of how well can we understand what's going on in people's brains. Now let me bring it home real quick. I told you about tying your shoe being a process. I told you about teaching a teen to drive a car as a process. You guys have sat in front of so many clients over so many years that the way that you talk about financial planning and the way that you do it in your office as a process, and me standing up here and suggesting something different makes you uncomfortable. Amen?
Yep.
Welcome to your lizard brain. But just like people who teach kids how to drive for a living, and just like people who do something new for a living, eventually it goes from being awful to being slightly better to being slightly uncomfortable to being something you're good at. What we basically do is real simple. We acknowledge up front with the client that what they're entering into is a relational process. And they may be great at it or they may not be great at it. But what we tell them is, look, your money's interesting to us, but it's not the most interesting thing. It's just a tool. So we need to find out what this tool is going to do for you. So we ask clients right up front, we tell them, we need to know what's more important to you than money. And you can't say your faith, And you can't say family, because that's like saying breathing. I really like breathing in and breathing out, and I do it all day long. And I've heard that there's other people that breathe out and breathe in, and I think they're crazy. Okay? That's not an objective. I need to know what's really core important to you, and guess what? Most marriages can't do it. Think that you're really good at it? Ask yourself a question. What's more important to me than money? Write it down, not including faith and family. Call your wife or your husband at home and ask them the same question. See if it matches yours. I'm going to bet it doesn't. Most of my clients can't do it. It takes time. But if we're going to figure out what's most important to them, and we can get them on the same page as to what's important to them, guess what happens? Boats become less important. Guess what? They start feeling like they're on the same page, pulling on the same rope, doing the same things. I have clients that make $15,000 a month, and I have clients that make $5,000 a month, and I cannot, with those two numbers, tell you who's more content or happy. Right? You guys know that. So there's something about being on the same page. There's something about knowing what you're trying to do. There's something about building a life that you're proud of. There's something about congealing around something more important as a couple together. And you as an advisor have an opportunity to do that because we're supposed to understand their goals and objectives. You have an excuse. You have a legal excuse to ask these questions. Now, we take a process with clients, and you're going to say they'll never do it. And I will tell you, every one of my clients does it. And I would say only 2 out of 100 will tell you that I didn't enjoy that and I don't want to ever do it again. Okay? We call it the exercise. Remember how I told you that you have a bunch of stuff in your lizard brain and it's really hard to break? We tell people up front, we're going to ask you to do something and it's going to be uncomfortable because each of you has a process. You have a way that you relate to money in your family and to your marriage, and you don't know how to get around that. You don't know how to circumvent that or short-circuit it. We're going to help you short-circuit it. It's going to cause a little bit of stress. We get it. But promise you it will get you through it. What we ask them to do is to go home and take 6 months of all the transactions that they have as a family. Can you imagine that? 6 months of all transactions. You cannot use QuickBooks. You can't use a compiler. You can't use Mint. We want to see you take all of the transactions and put them out on the kitchen table for 6 months. And we want you to sit down together and figure out where all these things should be categorized. So really quickly, what we're doing is we're taking their well-crafted world of how finance works. Maybe the husband is the one that does it. Maybe it's the wife the one that does it. And she has it all figured out, like tying her shoe. And when the husband asks questions, he goes, that's a dumb question. You know how we do that. However it is, she doesn't want to explain it. We take those well-crafted processes and we shatter them on the kitchen table by creating enough detail that they can't see their process anymore. We do that by having all of the transactions out. They then have to, however they want to do it. I don't care if you use a spreadsheet. I don't care if you use 12 legal pads. I don't care if you use a crayon. It doesn't matter. Just do it together. They go through this process and they categorize these transactions and see where all their money's gone over 6 months. And they suddenly start seeing things together for the first time at a level of detail that they haven't seen. And now they are starting to have a shared experience about how their money works as a couple. The other project that we're asking them to work on is what's most important in your family other than money. And when they start seeing these things together, they almost every time start seeing things that are no longer necessary and start seeing things that they want to do more with. I have clients all, we know we got to eat out less. Anybody, I got to eat out less. Like that's suddenly the most important thing in the world. You're programmed to say that. Maybe your most important thing in your family is hospitality. Maybe it's friendships, and maybe the way that you express that is by going out to eat. Okay, if there's room in the budget to do that, and that's what you value, and that brings meaning to your life, why would I cut that out? Cut something else. Get rid of the boat. Get rid of the travel, get rid of the thing that doesn't mean anything to you that you both feel trapped doing anyway. And again, as you guys know, these things don't change overnight. If they've already financed a Porsche and they've already financed a guest house and all this kind of stuff, you're in triage mode until they can get back to where they want to be. But I promise you, if you can have these kinds of conversations with clients, if you can start getting involved with them and get them to figure out what really makes them tick as a family, now all you're doing is you're aligning their resources, financial and otherwise, with this goal. And when they come back, you're asking them to be accountable to that goal. If I tell you, hey, I want to run a marathon, I've already made about 700 decisions by saying that one thing. I've decided that I'm buying new tennis shoes. I've decided that I'm eating different. I've decided I'm sleeping, except for in the morning when I get up and run. If a client says, we've decided that this is what we really want to accomplish over the next 5 years as a family, man, would you love a mandate like that as an advisor? Hey, it's year 3. This is the thing we were working on. Where are we at on it? What kind of progress have you made? And they come back and they go, we've done this, this, and this, and this. It's wonderful. You get to add all the efficiency, all the knowledge that you can bring as a financial planner into this situation. What we've done is we've done a bunch of podcasts, me and my therapist guy, we've done a bunch of podcasts about this. We have, I don't know, Sarah, 200 static images on Instagram that talk about money and contempt and arguing and all of this kind of stuff. And I think this is a teachable thing. I think this is something, just like Sean Claude is saying, hey, let us help take off some of this pressure of you trying to handle money management well. We can kind of, in the name of our group is Relational Media, what we can do is we can kind of help teach this process of how to bring these therapeutic ideas, and I don't like the word therapeutic, it is what it is, but it's really humanity. How to take you being able to be a good friend to your client when they're under stress and help lead them through a process that'll get them to a place they haven't been before. We can teach this. CFP Board is pushing psychology as the new element for the financial planning practice. They're spending a lot of time in behavioral finance. I'm going to tell you, it isn't behavioral finance where clients are getting destroyed. It's relational finance. They don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to set goals. Things that we're great at work, we don't know suddenly how to do when we get home because we're in this emotional relationship with our spouse. You can help with that. And you don't have to be a therapist to do it. So let me throw it out. I want to have a chance for some questions. Do you guys have any questions? I mean, does this seem strange? Does this... Thank you, Chad. It does. Question I get is, will clients actually have these kinds of discussions in front of you? Yes, number one, you have to start with an expectation that they come together to the meetings. You can't have one that shows up without the other. That's a commitment. You have to give them the value proposition, and our value proposition is very straightforward. We tell every client, look, if you're going to work with us, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to help you discover and clarify the things that are more important in your family than money. And when we've done that, we are then going to turn around and try to look at the way that you use your resources to make sure that it is in alignment with those stated objectives and goals. And then we'll work on defined outcomes that we're trying to achieve within every 5 years. And I have clients go, that makes sense. We don't get along very well on money. Do you know how to fix that? I go, I can't guarantee I can fix it, but there's some exercises that we can help you work your way through. We spend a little bit more time up front with our clients than we do before I did this. But it pays huge dividends because the reviews are no longer about, hey, where's the S&P, or what do I think about Japan, or what's going to happen with the election. The reviews are about, here's what we did this last year, here's what we're thinking about next year, here's what we want for our kids. How could you help us figure this thing out for our grandkids? Those are the conversations that we're having. They're great conversations. And Sarah, just so you know, we do cover the investments. We do talk about fees. We do look at the performance. I use a performance report. But I'm going to tell you in a 1-hour review session, 2 things about my reviews since I've been doing this. 1, clients look forward to coming. If you can't get a client to come to a review, you need to change your review. Number 1, they like coming. Number 2, we spend no more than 15 minutes on the mechanics of investing. And the rest of the time we're talking about what their family has done, what their family is doing, and what their family's moving towards in the next 1 to 5 years. Those are clients that are not going to get taken away from us because somebody's doing 1% or 2% better. Those are clients that are not going to get taken away from us because Junior is saying, hey, why are you paying a fee? These people are telling their kids, our marriage is stronger because of this financial advisor and the process that we're going through. We know how to advise you as kids on how to build a life around your finances. And we talk about money without arguing anymore. I was telling Jean Paul, he was asking me some questions about it. In the last 15 years, I've had 1 divorce in my practice. And that's with 200 clients, 200 families. Now, that's anecdotal. I'm not a miracle worker. People are still people and they still have spats. But I will occasionally now have clients say, we cannot get on the same page and we can't solve this problem. Can we get some time with you? Now you might say, why don't we just let the therapists handle this? Because they don't. Show of hands, who in here has a therapist as a client who's the primary breadwinner? You have one client? That's the first hand I think I've ever seen in the financial planning industry. The reality is most therapists are not motivated by money. It's not a high-paying field. They don't typically do well with money. They aren't really good at asking for what they're worth. They think money is taboo. They don't think money is a therapeutic process. They would send you to a financial planner. So they are not trained in any way, shape, or form to help a couple deal with money issues. They can talk about why they're arguing, but they can't talk about it in the context of the money itself. So I'm telling you right now that this is a black hole. This is an empty zone. This is a place where nobody is functioning and nobody is providing a skill and a service that, quite frankly, really needs to be provided. If you think of the families that have had real trouble in your practice, more often than not, you probably think they do things with their money that they shouldn't do. And they don't know why, and they don't know how to fix it. Yeah, and so be thoughtful about the fact that this really is a fertile area. If you're saying, if I'm going to let go of some of the money management processes, where would I turn my energy to? Is it playing golf with my clients? Is it, sending them birthday cards to, hey, it's your kid's birthday? Or do you want to do something really meaningful for them and start learning how to do this? Any questions? Yeah.
Did you start this process doing it on yourself?
Yes, I did. In fact, the way Jeff and I originally got together, we were in Taekwondo with our kids. And the genesis conversation was, why is it that we both give great advice to our clients/patients and they do something totally different? And from that moment, we started looking at all of the similarities and realizing that there was no current connection between marriage therapy, relational therapy, and financial planning. And it was a big eye-opener. We've spent a lot of time trying to work through it. I gave this presentation in a different format at Focus, and it got a lot of questions. So, yeah?
Where can we find your podcast and your Instagram handle?
Okay, so we're More Than a Budget. If you want to look up More Than a Budget,
it's also
on Instagram and also on Spotify. What?
ARC's website.
It's also on ARC's website. We are not trying to solve financial problems out on More Than a Budget. We're trying to help people think relationally about how to talk about and how to engage about money.